All right, I think that we will go ahead and get started. I hear a lot of blips in my ear, which means a lot of people are entering the webinar, and that is a great sound to hear because we certainly got some excellent information tonight and some very high profile guests as well. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mark McCord, Chief of Party for the USAID Economic Security Program. And we are very glad that you're with us this evening for this live event that features the world's largest tourism storytelling platform, Stellar. And before we get started, I just want to share some information with you. You can ask, we are going to have a question and answer session at the end. And so you can ask a question anytime by using your chat function at the bottom of your screen or on the upper right-hand side, the question and answer box. You can use that as well. Those questions will be largely taken in the order that they're sent, barring any duplications or any questions that aren't appropriate to ask. And Aka and Georgi will be handling that at the end of the webinar. And so feel free to ask questions at any time. I'm sure that you will have a lot of them, and we will get through as many as we possibly can. I also want to say that this event tonight is not just one that will provide some outstanding information. It's really the precursor to something that is big. And that is a campaign that's called A Digital Day in the Life of Georgia, which if COVID-19 hadn't happened, actually we would be involved in right now with our partners from Stellar. We had everything ready to go. And then, of course, the crisis happened, and we had to postpone it. But to just give you a brief overview, A Digital Day in the Life of Georgia will be a campaign where influencers, travel writers, bloggers, etc., from all over the world, hand-selected because of their connection to this market, will come to Georgia, and they will spend time here writing, blogging, seeing the best that Georgia has to offer, and the global visibility of this is going to be off the charts. And the Stellar application and platform will be one that will really drive a huge amount of visibility at a time when it will benefit Georgia greatly. Digital Day in the Life of Georgia was always a great idea, but now coming out of this crisis, and restoring the visibility of the great tourism product here in Georgia, it'll be absolutely fantastic. So we're looking forward to that, and we will be sending you, all the participants, a link to the website of the Digital Day in the Life of Ireland, which Stellar did, and so you can see what the Digital Day format looks like, because it's coming to Georgia, and it's coming relatively soon in the fall. So we're looking forward to that. Right now, I want to get started by introducing the head of the Georgia National Tourism Administration, Miriam Kavrivishvili, who has just joined us. I know Miriam's had a wild and crazy day, a lot of meetings, and just came from another meeting. So we're very glad that you're here. Miriam, please welcome everyone, and then we'll move forward with the agenda.
Hi everyone. First of all, I'm very, very delighted to see everyone on board today with all what's going on around the world. I think everyone is extremely busy and preoccupied with ongoing work just to keep the business back on the right track. I'm very grateful for the initiative, and I would like to sincerely express our gratitude to you, Mark, and your great team. Of course, Richard, Pete, for being here with us today and really doing an extra mile, actually, to help Georgian industry on getting back to business. I think it's very important to talk about what, in general, COVID-19 has caused throughout the world when it comes to tourism and aviation. And unfortunately, Georgia is not an exception, but we are an exception already as of last week. And we're extremely proud to say that we've showcased some courage, and that makes us the very first country who will be opening up for tourists with an exact and very specific time frames. So as a majority of you already know, 15th of June is the time and the day when we are opening up tourism for domestic travel, which is extremely important for us as an industry. And we believe that this will be of a significant contribution for the businesses, small and medium size, as well as the big ones, especially for those who are based in the regions. We are hoping that this will generate additional income for, transportation companies, individuals, tour guides, hostels, I don't know, family guest houses, restaurants mainly, and I think primarily, since we are a nation who really likes to degustate our own food. So we are very excited. When it comes to July 1st, July 1st is the big date when we will be hosting the very first international traveler and travelers from various countries. Since we are getting back to business in tourism, of course, ongoing month is very much linked into the preparation. I know that we have a lot of our private sector representatives joining today for the webinar, and they've played a huge role when it came to shaping up the incentive program from the government side. I think it's worth mentioning that what we've always tried to do in tourism is to always stand right next to private sector. And I think that's why Georgia has been one of those countries, I would say proudly, who came into the picture and initiated from day one to help tourism industry. And first package was announced in March. Second package of support for the industry was announced in April. And as you know, when Prime Minister declared that tourism needed more tailor-made approach when it came to additional tools of support, that was when we came into the picture and we said that these are the additional things that government will be doing to support business, to keep business running, to ensure that we maintain and we help industry to maintain jobs, which is extremely important. And we gave out some of the hints and the shapes of how the tourism industry in Georgia will open up, and what are the mandatory to-do lists for us as, as an authority, GNTA, and of course for private sector. So I think our missions and targets are very clear. As always, we see no way of executing it without our dear friends such as Mark and Georgi and all the team. Of course, private sector, now that you know that we are working on shaping and drafting the guidelines for all members of our private sector on day-to-day basis. We have ongoing talks with our private sector to ensure that whatever we do, whatever we confirm and bring it out to public, this is what our private sector believes would be at the same time secure, but at the same time not additional hassle for the operation. This is very important. Well, very briefly, I think not to consume much of your time, as you know, we will be having more emphasis on the security and the safety matters when it comes to international positioning. We have very good figures so far, and we're very grateful for the recognition that Georgia has been obtaining for the last couple of months during COVID times. We are very determined that Georgia will definitely be one of the most desired and travel destination, but at the same time, this gives us very big responsibility, and we need to be as cautious as never before and as responsible industry as never before, because we cannot allow tourism industry to be somehow not fully protective towards its own people who are working in the hospitality industry, but at the same time towards our international travelers. That's why we have separated and segregated the areas of work. Number one is, of course, the safe corridor concept that is currently under the working process with our partner countries. We're very grateful and very happy to see that the outcome and the feedback from so many destinations that are very, very careful when it comes to recommending destinations to their citizens. We currently have very, very positive outcome. We are very grateful for all our partner airlines. Some of the negotiations that we can already highlight to all of you have been extremely successful, and 18 international airlines have already confirmed that they will be back ASAP on Georgian market. We are extremely grateful to private sector who has been very motivated to be part of the working sessions, and I know that it has been slightly too much, but it's very very important just to ensure that we are all on the same track. Of course, huge responsibility is on how do we handle traffic and what will be the infrastructure in all international airports of Georgia, and also the land borders. We have very strict guidance from Prime Minister that it should be on top of the highest level, but at the same time, it should not exceed 1 hour waiting period for international travelers. So this is something that everyone is currently working at for when it comes to Ministry of Health. I think, well, all this together combined, of course, we understand these are a lot of new changes coming in for our industry, but this will help us to ensure that we are one of the safest destinations throughout the world. We are working on a concept, so-called green zone concept, that is still a brainstorm within the team. We are looking at some of the resorts, or not only, so it could be diversified just to ensure that travelers have different priorities. And then we also see the need for adventure travel and outdoor activities. So of course we want to ensure that private sector is ready, product is developing, and we do all the work that private sector needs from our side in order to grow. I will try to finish in a very brief introductory form, and I believe that everyone will be having a lot of questions, and we're all here today to obey all those questions and the guidance from your side. So thank you so much. Thank each and every one of you for being here today. I'm grateful that the private sector has joined us today, and I'm sure that it's going to be useful for everyone. Thank you.
Miriam, thank you so much. We really appreciate your remarks.
Tourism, but across the board. And so we're very happy to partner through the USAID Economic Security Program with GNTA, with the private sector, to identify the best ways to support the recovery of the economy around tourism, around small businesses, and ensuring that there are high value job opportunities, and that's my cat, sorry, available to everyone, and that we can bounce back as clear as possible and as quickly as possible. One of the things that we're really happy about is our ability to, again, through economic security, truly engage with some innovative new approaches to driving tourism, to driving economic growth. And one of those is through the Stellar platform that we're all here to learn about, which is the largest application for tourism storytelling in the world, and hopefully can spread just the wonderful opportunities that Georgia has to offer post-COVID crisis, from beautiful scenery, adventure tourism, amazing food, delicious wine, and just stunning scenery. So with that, again, thank you everyone for attending, for your interest in ensuring that high value tourism drives high value jobs here in Georgia, and that we can bounce back as quickly as possible once the COVID crisis is over. So thank you. And I hope we can all learn from this and move forward together.
Thank you, Marika. It truly is a team effort. I've been in Georgia now for almost a year, and I can tell you that our work with GNTA, I've seen it over and over again, and the private sector associations within tourism. It's a great team effort here in Georgia. And that is shown by the success that this country has had in recruiting high value tourists, but it's also reflected in the team spirit that everyone from the government to associations to donors to the private sector has around the tourism sector here. And of course, it's augmented by one of the most beautiful and profound tourism products I've ever seen. Some people have said I'm the unofficial tourism ambassador for Georgia. I think Marika Olson is rapidly catching up with me because we talk ad nauseum about how great Georgia is, and we encourage everyone to come. And they will be coming beginning July 1st. They are going to be coming back to Georgia, and we're going to use things like Digital Day in the Life of Georgia to really create that visibility. So right now, I'd like to turn it over to our presenters this evening. We've got a couple of very high-profile international guests with us this evening. One of them is Pete Bryant, the co-founder and president of Stellar, who will be talking with you in just a moment. Pete is also the founder and president of Pioneer Venture Partners, and he is an entrepreneur. He spent much of his life in the entrepreneurship space, and so he understands what it's like to create something, and he's created an outstanding platform in terms of Stellar. We also have Richard Bangs with us this evening. Richard is a television personality, an author. He was part of the founding executive team that created Expedia.com. And his title in Stellar, I think, is interesting. It's Chief Adventure Officer. That sounds like the coolest job that you can have. So Richard, congratulations for you on that. He's literally been all over the world, and he's shared stories all over the world, but he loves the Georgian tourism product. And every time I talk to Pete and Richard, that's what I come away with, is how much they love this product. And because of GNTA's vision, we're able to partner with Stellar to do Digital Day in the Life of Georgia in the fall. So we're looking forward to that as well. So Pete, I'd like to turn it over to you to start. And
before, I'm sorry, Mark, for intrusion, but
go ahead.
GNTA is very grateful to our dear friend Saba Ignadze, who was the one who introduced us to Richard. So I think everything started from Saba introducing us to Richard, and then we all became great friends, and then you became great friends with him. So I think the value chain of how private sector and government sector are really working is fantastic, and this is one of the greatest example, I think. So thank you, and I would again want to use the opportunity to thank Saba for always prioritizing country and the industry over so many other things. So thank you.
Great, Mariam. Thank you very much. Pete, I'll turn it over to you to start the presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mariam. And great call out on Saba as well. And Marika, thank you for your words. So obviously, these are unprecedented times. And we thought as a company that is in the storytelling business, that we would attempt to launch a program worldwide. And Georgia was one of the first to sign up for this initiative on travel recovery program. So really what we're going to go through today is our belief and path to make what's happened to us, the unimaginable, imaginable. And in that process, through storytelling, travelers on the ground, experiences happening, really bring to the forefront Georgia as a new emerging destination in the world, and one that should be considered by everybody that has canceled trips and is now refactoring and rescheduling and reprioritizing their destination. So we have some slides to go through today, and in some Q&A. So if you have questions, please write them down. And we normally, this is a very interactive session. We have a lot of attendees today, so really look forward to the Q&A. So what is this thing, Stellar? So Stellar was launched in 2014 as an early adopter of the storytelling platform. This is at a time when mobile devices were becoming more and more prolific. Now we liken mobile devices as being part of the human body, the anatomy. It's attached to your hand more than any other device in the history of the industry. And so when we launched it, it was really optimized for a mobile first experience. And it's available on iOS and Android, but at its heart, it is a truly native storytelling platform. One that goes from an authoring environment, gives you great flexibility to tell your story using themes and templates and widgets and links. And one from a distribution perspective, you can publish stories natively everywhere. And with that, we launched in 2014 to great fanfare. We App of the Year award from Apple, and somewhere along the way, we got taken over by travelers. And that at the core is what we represent, is experiences around the world as told by travelers. So let's talk about stories. So stories are quickly emerging as the leader of engagement on social media. With over 1 billion stories viewed per day, I think the number has now crept up to almost 1.5 billion stories viewed per day. It's rapidly increasing as a number one point of engagement. Stories consume quite a bit of time. There's lots of links now and options to directly connect to businesses, which is a big theme of what we're talking about today. And more importantly, because stories are in the social channels, they also have a tendency to reach a widespread of the target demographic. Many of these are travelers that we're trying to find across multiple mediums today as businesses. So what is this thing exactly? So it's quite an amazing journey when you download the app from the Google App Store or the iOS Store, and first set up your account, because the very first thing that you will benefit from is just a rich mix of stories. So we curate every single day of the thousands and thousands of stories that get produced. We produce and curate a feed, and in that feed are stories from all over the world. Today, we have storytellers from 180 countries, and so there's a vast amount of content. There's over 1 million stories on Stellar today, and so you can lose your day perusing destinations and experiences around the world. But what really is fascinating is when you take that next step and you create your first story. It's very easy to do. I do it, almost every day, if not every other day. Typically for me, I'm a little bit more experienced. You can take 5 minutes or less. So in 5 minutes or less, you can tell the world about an experience that you had. You can share the world about your hotel, about your bike touring company, about your trekking company, about your winery, and it's very, very easy to do. The authoring environment and the platform itself was created by Richard McAniff, who is our CTO. Richard came to us from Microsoft, where in 1987 he began working on the precursor to Excel, ultimately running Office, and becoming a very, very successful software architect. So the platform itself is built for scale. It's built for a vast creative environment. But what's really, really cool is you get to then connect your story. So as you're authoring your story, and let's just say we're going on a hike to a high alpine, boutique hotel, and you need to share the world with what that hotel is. You can very easily now geotag your story. So we're linked into Google Map and Google Map API. So now the viewers and users from around the world can pinpoint exactly where your business is and where your story and experience originated from and where it ended. So that is not just the beginning or the end, but that is also your option then to share it. Okay, so our platform was built as an inside-out platform. What does that mean? That means that when you publish a story, it goes into Stellar, but then you have the option to publish it into all social media channels, and which includes Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. You can embed it in your website. You can embed it in email campaigns, post it in forum threads, and in travel blogs. It's a very, very robust publishing platform. And how we execute against that is we have our own web player. So last month we had 6.5 million viewers on Pinterest because our stories get played natively on Pinterest. So it doesn't just drop you off at a website. It actually takes you through the experience that you first imagined when you clicked on the beautiful photo of the mountains. So create, discover, collect, connect, and share. You can format and share your stories in collections. You can share those collections with everyone in the world. So very, very powerful platform. So create once, share everywhere. And we're very excited to now work with destinations from around the world. At the forefront of that is with Georgia to combine a platform that has been recognized now again, just right at the end of the year in December. Apple awarded us as one of the best apps of 2019 in the trend of storytelling, and it's a big honor and one that we fully embrace. But what it needs is it needs new stories and new content. And as we thought about pivoting and helping businesses recover from this incredible crisis, we really thought that it's the destinations themselves that are home to all the travel businesses that offer these experiences that change lives. And that's our focus is to work hand in hand with destinations and all the travel businesses that represent these destinations to launch a campaign of discovery and exposure for Georgia. So we read these headlines every day. I'm excited beyond belief, and it was news to me and great news to hear the path to recovery from Georgia. Putting in best practices and standards will go very, very far in appeasing anxiety for travelers. And really, really look forward to launching stories as soon as this summer as travelers return. Look, the travel industry is very resilient. We're all entrepreneurs in our own way, and travel will recover. Travel needs to recover. It's that sense of discovery that really fulfills people's people's life and those experiences. And so as we study the data, it's those destinations and countries that are the most transparent, that build trust and invite travelers back. And we really want to be the platform for those stories as travelers return to these destinations. So the good news is the timing of our rescheduled campaign and partnership with GNTA and USAID with the Digital Day in the Life of Georgia is we have some exciting new features coming out in July, and they're going to make this platform even more powerful. So today you can geotag all of your stories, and as these stories get rendered into a map view, users from around the world can begin putting together their ideal experience in a destination like Georgia. We're going to take that one step further in July, and we're going to release two incredibly new powerful features. The first of which is Moments. Moments are 15 to 20 second videos that optimize that quintessential experience. So at the top of the hike, as you walk into this incredible restaurant, as the wine is delivered at your table, as you ride in the backcountry on your bike, these moments are very, very powerful, and they, like their stories, will be able to be geotagged and with our second feature, pinned. So now we're going to enable for stories and moments and every element within a story to be pinned. So as you're going through the hundreds, if not thousands of stories that get published from a Digital Day in the Life of Georgia, users and travelers from around the world will be able to pin elements that are really, really interesting for them as they plan their journey to this wonderful, wonderful country. So those features will be available in early July, and we really are excited to embrace those for the launch of this campaign in the fall. The other big release is we partnered with Google, and as we know, Google is a very, very large and vast company, but in this particular case, they are launching Web Stories. So Web Stories is really Google's answer to Instagram Stories. They really want to be a player here because, well, first of all, they have the most massive context engine known to the world, which is Google Maps, and you know, pretty much anything and everything you can find in the world is available on Google Maps. So the idea that stories now connected to maps will be the ultimate guide for travelers is right at the forefront of why we decided to partner and launch with Google Web Stories, our platform. So available at the end of this month and into early June. All of the stories that come out of Stellar will be curated and sent to Google Web Stories. Google Web Stories sees over 1 billion monthly active users, and so we view it as a really, really good opportunity for everyone on this call to participate in publishing their stories to Google Web Stories. And the other exciting element, our engineers have been hard at work. All the features, all these incredible features that are available in Stellar will be available in Google Web Stories. So the one interesting thing with Google is because, and this is unique to them, because they're not a market leader in stories, right? So that belongs to Facebook and Instagram, of which I'm sure all of us are intimately aware with the power of those platforms. They are being very aggressive in terms of their positioning and opportunity. So So we're very excited to offer that to everyone on this call to participate with us on launching a pretty massive initiative with a very, very large company. So rather than wave my hands and bestow the virtues of Stellar, let's talk about almost a year ago to this day what kicked all this off. And we're very fortunate that we had an opportunity with Ireland to test our thesis on the power of storytelling for destinations. And there was great leadership coming out of New York with Ruth Moran, one of the recognized leaders in destination marketing, with the simple goal of how do we get more Americans to Ireland to disperse from Dublin and Belfast, right? So they had a very basic objective of the campaign. They didn't need another million people hanging out in Dublin or Belfast. They had this great country with this storied history, and they wanted dispersal was a key thing. So we partnered in a very small exercise initially that became a national campaign, and really at the forefront of that was the work of my colleague Richard Bangs and his vision. Richard is a very humble adventurer, but I can tell you this, he's written over 30 books. He's led expeditions in over 150 countries. He's the co-founder of Mountain Travel Sobek. He's widely referred to as the founding father of adventure travel. He's a dear friend, and he is an amazing storyteller. And he grabbed hold of this initiative and partnership. And so with that, I'd like to hand over the microphone to Richard Bangs to take us through this incredible case study.
Thank you, Pete. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, let's go to the next slide. And the genesis of the Digital Day concept came from a book series that launched in the 80s, first in Australia, A Day in the Life of Australia, which became a phenomenon and probably the most effective sort of tourism awareness vehicle that the country had ever seen. And because it was successful, it moved around the world. And in the 90s, there was one, a Day in the Life of Ireland, which became their most successful sort of promotional product. But the series lapsed in the 90s, and nobody, I guess, revisited it for all these years. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could do a digital version of it? And of course, the concept is to dispatch talent all over a destination and have them capture what goes on throughout the country in a single day, which represents this beautiful snapshot of what is the essence of a destination. And it's not just the great tourism assets and sites, but it's also the hidden gems and the nooks and crannies and the little secrets sometimes that the rest of the world doesn't know about. We started off by inviting 50 of the world's top influencers to come and participate in this program. And our goal was to see if we could get 20. That was our original budget for this project. But we unexpectedly had 27 respondents who were very enthusiastic about joining this campaign and this idea. And we just couldn't turn them down. So we ended up with 27 influencers, world-class influencers for the Digital Day. One of them was a well-known celebrity, Tom Skerritt, who was seeking his roots in Ireland. And Tom Skerritt, you may know, was one of the stars of Top Gun and A River Runs Through It and Alien and 80 other films and popular television shows. So it was an extra sort of cherry on top of the project to have Tom Skerritt, who then presented and traveled and was a key part of the program. Before we launched the Digital Day. Everybody flew in on a Wednesday, and this is how we're hoping to fashion the project upcoming in Georgia. Everybody flew in on a Wednesday and decompressed for a little bit. On Thursday evening, we had a stellar meet in one of the most well-known venues within Ireland, which was the Guinness Storehouse. And to that event, the stellar meet, we invited all the industry, all the travel providers, the suppliers, the hotels, the guides, the local bloggers and media. All the travel media was invited, so they could come and interface with the influencers and also listen to Tom Skerritt talk about what he was doing, and to meet the executives from Stellar and learn how to create the best and most effective stories. Everybody in the industry was invited to create stories as well, showcasing their product, and that then was included in the campaign. So in addition to all these spectacular creators from all over the world, we also had many of the industries who could tell their stories. And in many cases, the hotels and B&Bs had extraordinary stories to tell. Like the Stamba Hotel, let's say in Georgia, that is an incredible story. And they will be featured in some fashion, I think, in the upcoming campaign, as many other properties and tour assets should be. So we pulled off this event, similar to what's upcoming in Georgia, and it received great attention from all over the world. And as you can see here, this is talking about some of the local tourism participation. And then let's see the results then, Pete. Next slide. And this used the Inside Out Network. So this is a snapshot not long after the event that showed the results. So all of these numbers have increased mightily because this was a year ago. But this is what happened in the wake of the event, including the return on investment and the number of stories that were created. The stories, of course, again, are evergreen. Unlike other social media platforms, they live forever, and there's a long tail. Ireland itself still promotes the pages that they created to celebrate the Digital Day in the life of Ireland, and I think Mark is going to send around a link so you can see how they handled it. I just want to mention that as a result of this campaign, Ireland experienced the largest increase of American tourists to Ireland in its history, and it was such a sort of profound increase, record numbers of tourists in 2019, that in the wake of all this, not only did the director of tourism go over the top and do testimonials and appeared to talk about it and invited us back for a project later this year, but the Prime Minister of Ireland flew to Los Angeles, where I live, and took me out to breakfast to personally thank Stellar for what they had done to help really make Ireland well-known, attractive, inspirational, and see the actual results of visitors to the island. The next slide, Pete. So I can turn it back over to Pete, and we will take questions about how the Digital Day in the Life campaign worked. And boy, looking forward to that so much. Pete, you're on, but you're muted.
Let me go back. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as we all left Ireland, we took with the satisfaction that now we had shared that incredible week and that incredible day with the world. I think that those experiences are still driving engagement. for the destination of Ireland. We track it and we see the continued shares and story views. And it really is a testament to the incredible long tail of stories and Stellar. So as we look at recovery, we think of it in two forms, right? So we're in this this phase right now where every country and jurisdiction is different around travel restrictions, and so we've been really supportive of destinations and partners of ours joining in with a hashtag Love Where You Live. We think it's a way for businesses and residents to really voice to the world what's unique about where you live, because for many of us, it's what we've known for the last 60 days. And I can speak for one. I live in Seattle. We've rediscovered our city because there's nothing else you can do, and it's quite really it really embodies the power of this platform. We've seen so much content come onto Stellar in the past 60 days as a celebration of what's around you, and we look to carry this forward into the fall. In partnership with Georgia and all of the travel businesses inside the wonderful country, to really share that what's unique, and it allows for us to kind of get started together, before a big campaign launches. As Richard and I have talked about leading up to this webinar, we have an entire team of creatives. We have over 200,000 influencers on Stellar today. So there's lots of opportunities to partner together, whether you're a hotel or a tour operator or restaurant. There's so many great opportunities for us to partner to get you onto Stellar, to create your first story, to help you learn how to publish, and then hashtag Love Where You Live, Georgia, because it becomes a meeting spot for inspiration. And then as we move forward, we really see international travel returning as great leading countries such as yours establish best practices and standards. Trust and transparency will drive the return of international travelers, and we want to be there as well. And that's why it's so critical for new content, for new stories, whether it be moments or stories, to be built in a way that they're geotagged, so that travelers can pin and begin building their own itineraries as they plan travel to Georgia. So really what we'd like is obviously to invite, ideally I set lofty goals, but I want every travel business in Georgia to be a part of this campaign. When we presented in Dublin at the Guinness Storehouse, we walked off the stage after the Prime Minister of Tourism spoke, and there must have been 30 to 40 businesses lined up that had phones in their hands and they were ready to go. And that really embodies the energy and potential when we all work together on this. Look, it's not lost on us that the once normalcy returns to the travel tourism industry, there's going to be a lot of noise in terms of marketing and campaigns. The cost of doing all this will likely become very, very expensive. And what we would like to offer and extend is an invitation to partner with us. There's no charge. You can join the platform tomorrow, today. You can create your first story. You can launch it into your network and be a part of our traveler-based community as quickly as you want, and we'll work with you to spread your message and the message of your experiences to the travel world. And what we hope in the end is similar to what we saw in Ireland, is engagement increases, and from engagement comes commerce. And we really want to on one hand, inspire travelers to learn more about Georgia, but on the other hand, we really want to connect them with all of you, so that this platform is one of inspiration, but it's also one of interaction, action, and commerce, and that is ultimately what we see ourselves on a global basis as being: travel by travelers for travelers, and we believe that this partnership and getting back to the business of tourism with Georgia is going to be very, very powerful. So, as I said, we don't need to wait till the fall to do this. You can download the app. You can reach out to any of us, and we'll help you. We can work with as sophisticated as you are, as new to you. It doesn't matter. We can help you get published and begin your journey on our platform, establishing your profile page, your information, and starting to share with the world what's unique about your business. And so with that, I really thank you, Richard, thank you, Mark and Marion, for the opportunity. It's really an opportunity for all of us, because we are totally focused on travel. We have an incredible creative offering environment and a very robust publishing platform to share your story. So with that, I would like to conclude this presentation and move on to Q&A.
Okay. Richard, thank you. Pete, thanks so much. And Richard, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Eka Chakanalidze now to facilitate our question and answer session. I see some questions out there already, but Eka, can you lead us through some questions for our panelists, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. So my name is Eka, and I will facilitate Q&A session during this webinar. We have a number of questions, and I would like to thank all of you. First, I will start with Saba Kiknadze, who wants to thank Mariam, Richard, Pete, and all the panelists for joining us today and giving this presentation. So next is Irakli Chitanaba. His question is, how will the first international tourists be distributed in the country? Will these travelers be diverted to big hotels and big companies? I think this question is for Mariam Krivishvili. Hello?
Should I answer, or should we allow Saba to give us some compliments? As I understood. How do we do?
Saba said thank you to all the panelists. I don't see another message from him for now in our Q&A session. The question I said is from Irakli Chitanaba.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Richard, Mark, and everyone who took time to present such an interesting presentation. I will now move to, with your permission, to answer some of the questions that are related to GNTA. As I already started with my introductory speech, there will be a very clear guidance on how an international traveler will be welcomed to Georgia and what will be the protocols implemented in all areas that are crucially important for tourists. Number one is the airports and or the land border. So whichever border will be crossed by an international traveler, they will have to go through an additional health and security measures, which will be implemented. That's one. Second, it's important to highlight that from 1st of July, we will be opening up borders with those countries, of course, step by step, with who will be having bilateral safe corridor concept of an agreement, which will help us to preserve the safety and security and to ensure that we open up for tourism with the relevant and secure approach. When it comes to once traveler comes out of the airport, of course, as I mentioned, there will be new regulations stepping into Georgia when it comes to transportation, when it comes to tour operators, when it comes to tour guides, restaurants, and accommodation facilities. I think today it's not the day where we should go into very details what will be the regulations, because we will have upcoming couple of days to go through with all the draft versions with our private sector. What I will be able to say is that GNTA has already formed draft guidelines per sectors, as already highlighted, which is in direct line of World Health Organization, international standards, and some of the best practices that we've been using during the quarantine project, and not only. I will also add that we are in direct contact with our partner countries and our colleagues from Ministry of Tourism or Department of Tourism from different countries, as we are part of the anti-crisis group that is formed by UNWTO that is working on the anti-crisis management plan for the world tourism industry. So these are the topics that are currently discussed internally. Definitely, I will be in the position to say that there will be no guidelines taken and placed as a mandatory to be mandatorily executed without not consulting it with private industries. Let's say today at 8 p.m. we're having a call with international brand hotels and some of the hotels that already have their in-house internationally certified guidelines to go through with the drafted version of what we've drafted. Next stage is, of course, to discuss everything and work very closely with NCDC and Ministry of Health. And we are looking at upcoming week to make it all public and to start training, to start implementing and monitoring, so that by the 15th of June, all the facilities that want to be back on tourism business have fully integrated all the standards that will ensure the safety of the travelers and those employed in the tourism industry. So things will be back to normal, basically, just to wrap it up. It just we will be having new guidelines to implement in all directions of the business, which is purely health management related. I hope that I've fully covered the question. Thank you very much.
Sure, Mariam, thank you. So let's move to the next question from Gerald Golden. He's saying, I have heard that tourists coming from the United States may not be welcome in Georgia and elsewhere for some time. What's your expectations? I ask as I have a trip planned to Georgia in September.
Or Richard, do you want to take it further?
By the way, Gerald Golden is a friend of mine. So, but I think Mariam, you should answer that.
All right. Well, United States has always been our key strategic partner for the country. That's one. And then when it comes to tourism, definitely we've always worked extremely hard with our private sector to attract more and more travelers from United States as time was going by. And I'm very proud to say that year by year, if we see statistics, numbers from United States have been growing. And in fact, if we were not harmed by COVID-19 in this year, an ongoing year, we were spending the most of our budget that we've ever spent on the US market, which is a very big indicator of how big of an importance this market and industry is for our tourism field. Definitely, we would say that we would only be happy and grateful if travelers from United States decide to come and travel to Georgia. Definitely, we are hoping that the Safe Corridor bilateral agreement will be handled with United States too, and that we will also obey and form all the initiatives that would be set from United States, and we will also implement it when it comes to outbound and inbound to and from US. So I think there are simply no changes. Instead, actually, this challenge gives us more opportunities to be more visible in United States, which has always been an extremely competitive market, and a small country like ours will obtain more competitive advantage. Of course, within the frames of the regulation that would be strictly controlled and monitored by both of the countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. The next question is from David Ticlauri. Hi, Piero. What analytical possibilities this system has? I believe he's asking about Google Analytics. Can it track route of visitors or similar statistical information, or can it provide segmenting details of users for Georgia? Thank you.
Great, I'll take that. Yes, so we are a data private sensitive company. So it's very important for us that user data is preserved, and we think that that's unique in terms of social and storytelling networks. But with that said, we do provide for our business partners analytics around page views and engagement where data is available through Google Analytics. Where we think this is going to be very powerful is with Google Web Stories, obviously, because stories are very interactive with geotags and links into maps, and we think it will be a great opportunity to showcase top of funnel inspiration all the way down to click through action, whether it be a website or a phone number or an email or an integrated booking button. We will be able to provide user and engagement data back into the travel industry as part of our campaign this fall with Georgia.
Thank you, Pete, for your response. Okay, the next question is from Audrey Scott. A couple of questions, actually. What role will a focus on responsible tourism or sustainability play in Georgia's tourism recovery? Will the Digital Day in the Life campaign have a sustainability focus to highlight the importance of sustainable tourism to a destination like Georgia? Will the campaign be adjusted for COVID-19 to incorporate hygiene safety topics so that travelers feel safe, comfortable traveling to Georgia? Does Stellar provide the possibility to track conversions? Example, that travelers book an experience, tour, hotel, etc., from something that they can see on Stellar to understand how the inspiration visibility converts to sales. Thank you.
Okay, I can take that, and Miriam, maybe you can echo some of these sentiments. So leading up to a Digital Day in the Life of Georgia, we will implement best practices for content creation with our influencers. What does that mean? That means that that within their creative guidelines, there are important elements that they need to get across to their followers and to the consuming public at large. Critical to that, and as we saw in Ireland and as we've seen elsewhere, is this sense of with discovery is ownership. So the idea that you go to a foreign country and experience their mountains and immerse yourself in their culture is a sense of responsibility. So inherent and native to a story itself is the ownership to preserve that destination. And the old words were, leave no trace. Well, the fact of the matter is, there is a trace, and how do you lessen that impact and make sure for generations to come that a remarkable destination like Georgia is sustainable? You can get that through in your story and in the gist of your story. As far as safety and health, we think it's one of the most powerful platforms because the channels of tourism and travel are going to be very, very heavy and very congested with messaging around we're open, come here. But inherent in that is a sense of responsibility around safety and best practices. So we envision as part of our guidelines to stories will be messages, pictures and videos and text that really not just talk about it, but show how these standards are being implemented, both in dense cities as well as the surrounding outdoor pursuits.
Thank you.
Add one thing to that. Stellar is an active partner with CREST, which is the Center for Responsible Travel based out of Washington, D.C. And we endorse and promote their guidelines. They are international. And we have many other partners who help guide us and our users and our creators, including Kind Traveler, which is a group that collects various hotels that have responsible practices and then promotes them as a collection. And you'll see many Kind Traveler stories on Stellar. So I think it's just part of our DNA. It's always been that way, and it's a platform that helps promote good practices in responsible travel.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Pete. And next question is from Akaki. We are running a platform, Georgia Starts Here. We have many posts about travel experiences in Georgia. Could we post them on Stellar as well?
Yes, absolutely, and we'll help you do that. So we see many of our stories from destinations, hotels, repurposing existing content, and it's very easy to do. We have content coming from really long video segments being trimmed down. So we have a video trimmer in our platform. So it's very, very easy to take existing content and republish into Stellar. So please email us and we'd love to help. It's very easy to do.
Thank you, Pete. Next question. Dear Mariam, we are more interested in adventure tourism. Will Mestia and Kazbeki destinations be open if we bring our groups? Will we need to register and apply for the permissions?
Thank you very much. I think it's a very interesting question. I think we would really need to generalize and say that all the destinations within the destination and all the private sector would be eligible to be part of the tourism industry like before. It just we need to be responsible to integrate all the new guidelines that would be applicable for tourism industry. Nothing more than that. So there will be a very clear and very simple guideline on how do we get on the checklist, because there would be a relevant entity who would do the monitoring of the implementation process and then working process when it comes to hospitality, like it is till for the time being for the other industries too. So there will be of a no difference when it comes to tourism. We are looking at, of course, ensuring that all the destinations are back on the active mode. We're looking and hoping that all the accommodation facilities, restaurants, tour guides, as well as tour operators and transportation companies, the drivers will be back to business, fully integrated, all the guidelines that would be presented very shortly.
Eka, let's take just a couple more questions because we're running out of time, okay?
Sure. Thank you, Mariam, for answering the question. Next question is from Katie Sidamonidze. Goes to Richard. From the storytelling's perspective, what would be Georgia's utmost captivating lure for high-end tourists? Name one specific product or service. Thanks.
Great question. It's hard to narrow it down to one. I mean, there's so many extraordinary assets. Any of the wine destinations and any of the mountain destinations and even the museums, and the architecture and the art. It just goes on and on and on. I was there, as you know, last summer and was overwhelmed at almost every turn that I took as I traveled throughout the country. I don't know that I can give you a single spot or destination for the luxury. So there are many types of luxury travelers. There are those who want to stay in a 5-star and kick back, and the best surprise is no surprise epistemology, where they never really interface with the locals and people perform for them and serve them, and they never really get outside of a gated community, let's say. That's not the sort of person that would, I think, be drawn to Georgia, and I'm not sure it's the type of person that we would want to propose a visit. There is the other type of luxury traveler, and that's the person who's seeking the rich experience. And that's what Georgia offers in spades. Certainly accommodations and quality of food and service are all important, but those all exist within Georgia. So it's there first and foremost to have the experience. And then, the accommodations take second seat to that, because your primary reason for visiting is beyond just the bed sheet count and the fluffiness of the towel. It's really about what can wow me and change me and delight me and make my world a little bit richer.
Thank you, Richard. So I'm going to read another question. Thank you for the interesting presentation. As you have mentioned, it's important to show the destination on Google Maps, though we often face a problem with verification. Google sends direct mail and it gets lost a lot. Are there any other ways of spotting the correct address on Google Maps? Thank you.
Inherent in that digital photo is longitude coordinates. And so even if you're not registered in your location will be pinned. So if you're having verification issues in terms of your website, your phone number, your contact information, you will still have your location on the map. Furthermore, we're an open platform. We're very pro-business, so you can have your links to your website, your phone number. We'll work with anybody who has an API to integrate directly into the stories. So there's numerous ways for you to provide contact information, but rest assured, at the end of the day, your geotag will show up on the map.
Pete, thank you. I wanted to say we have a lot of questions coming, and unfortunately, I think we are running out of time, and therefore, I think I will not be able to read any of your other questions. But I thank you for participating during this Q&A session, and your questions have been very interesting, and I hope that we were able to answer most of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eka, and we're really sorry to those who didn't get their question asked. I guess it's a good problem to have so many questions, but we would love to have been able to answer them all, but we're just simply out of time on this particular webinar. But we thank you for your participation this evening. We especially thank Miriam from GNTA, Pete and Richard from Stellar, Marika from USA Georgia, outstanding partners in the development of Georgian tourism. And we are very, very pleased as a USAID Economic Security Program to be partners with GNTA, many private sector organizations, and of course, Stellar on a digital day in the life of Georgia coming up this next September. So again, thank you for your participation this evening, and we wish you a great evening. Thank you.